Siamo qui con David Paleologos, direttore della Suffolk University Political Research Center. David, thank you very much for your availability. Thank you. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So we have some questions for you about, of course, whatever is going to happen for the primaries, but also looking at next year's presidential elections. Let's start with what's actually happening right now in the Congress. So could the Congress chaos with the speaker, of course, affect the Republican Party in the generic ballot polls? And could it affect Trump supports or supports for any of the Republican candidates for next year's presidential election?
Terrific. So I'll take the first part of your question, which is the generic. Right now, both parties are not favored by American voters. We just released a poll today showing that 37% gave a favorable rating to the Democratic Party, but only 32% gave a favorable rating to the Republican Party. And what that means is that when you look at the problems in Congress's inability to elect a speaker, people are very upset at the House of Representatives. We also asked in the poll the opinions of voters regarding, and we broke it out. We just didn't say Congress in general. We said, what is your opinion of the US Senate? And what is your opinion of the US House? And it was vastly, vastly different. 32% said favorable or low 30s of the Senate, but 25%, and think of that, only 25% of voters say that they have a favorable view of the House of Representatives. So that chaos is problematic for the House of Representatives and for Republicans who control the House of Representatives. Now, Trump. You ask about Trump and what the impact will be. Trump has already gone out on a limb to support Jim Jordan, and that failed miserably. So that was viewed as a loss for President Trump. He's now trying to get involved in the next round of electing a speaker, and he's trying to back a candidate. Usually, presidential elections are not about the challenger, even though he was a former president. Usually, campaigns in everywhere, in Italy, in the United States, and in England and other countries, usually those races are about the incumbent. So the November election, some of it will be about Trump because he's such a visible character, but most of it will be about Joe Biden. How did he do in his first 4 years? And are voters willing to give him a second look for 4 more years?
Yeah, we will have a question later about Joe Biden's. So we'll ask you about that later. But now let's go to the primary elections, especially the Republicans, of course. In your latest poll about the Republican primary election in New Hampshire, Nikki Haley was in second place with 19%. Who should become the main competitor of Donald Trump?
Right now, Haley has the momentum. You know, when I got the first set of results back in that New Hampshire poll, it was late at night. I looked at the poll results and I was like, this can't be right. She's at 19%. She's way ahead of DeSantis. The other polls have DeSantis leading. The most recent previous poll to our poll had DeSantis leading Haley by a couple points. But it's true. She has surged ahead in not only New Hampshire, but she's overtaken him in South Carolina, which is her home state as well. And she is now the candidate with some momentum. I don't know that she has enough momentum to go all the way to beating Donald Trump, but right now, of all of the other candidates, and there are 11 other candidates technically still in the race, of those, she is the better candidate and she has the most momentum.
Do you think there might be surprises? Because, we have Donald Trump in all polls. There is a huge margin between Donald Trump and all other candidates. So do you think there might be surprises, or Trump's margins is just simply too big to be eroded by undecided voters?
Yeah, so we've looked at the loyalty factor of Donald Trump voters, and they are very loyal. They have high intensity of support for him in the Republican primary, that is. and a low probability of changing their minds or to shift away from him. So I think the surprise, if there'll be any surprise, will be who's the second place finisher. Right now, it's kind of baked in the cake that Haley has momentum. So I don't know beyond that, Trump, Haley, DeSantis, what a surprise would be. Maybe DeSantis wins Iowa, or maybe he gets close to Donald Trump in Iowa. I'm not sure, but it seems like it's been a fixed bag. We use the term mixed bag in U.S. politics, but it's been almost a fixed bag in that Trump is first in all of the polling. There's a large drop off, and then 40 points later, you have Haley and DeSantis, or DeSantis and Haley. I don't think much of that is going to change. The problem for both DeSantis and Haley is twofold. For DeSantis, he needs Trump to lose support, because we know from our poll that if for every 10 votes that he drops, DeSantis will pick up 3 for every 1 that Haley picks up. So DeSantis needs Trump to drop in order to improve, and that hasn't happened so far. And Haley needs the votes of the other candidates, not necessarily Trump. So Haley needs Christie to go down to 1%, Ramaswamy to go down to 1%, Pence to go down to 1%, Scott to go down, and she seems to be collecting the all others. But the two of them are getting their support in different places. DeSantis, again, he's not getting his support from the other candidates. He needs to have Trump drop. Haley, she needs the support of other people getting out of the race or dropping in the percentage. The only way that a challenger to Trump captures both of those subgroups, Trump weakening and the votes of the others, is if Haley and DeSantis right now hooked up and became a ticket, either Haley DeSantis or DeSantis Haley. In that scenario, that ticket would benefit from Trump losing and from the other candidates dropping. But that's not going to happen at this point.
I just thought about one more question before going to Biden. What can make Trump losing votes? Like, is there anything, like it will stand trial, maybe a conviction, maybe, I don't know. Is there anything that can make Trump losing?
So we asked
votes?
that question of Trump voters, and most of the responses were nothing. The largest response was nothing will change my mind. Nothing. There's nothing that could happen that will make me not vote for Trump. Some people said if he goes to jail, that would change their mind. Some people obviously said if he died, or if they died, or if they weren't able to vote, then obviously they wouldn't cast a ballot for him. So there were very few people who said his policies, if he changed his position on a policy or some behavioral change. So that's why I say these Republican primary voters, some may leave him and vote for DeSantis and Haley. I'm not saying that will happen. Some may just get sick of Trump and vote for Haley or DeSantis if they get closer. But most of them, it seems he's holding enough so that he still maintains a pretty comfortable lead.
Now, let's go to Biden, because we've seen the polls where, is not very favored, like his job. I mean, the American people are not seeing him doing a good job if you just look at the polls. However, in the meantime, we've seen in the past few months special elections, and the Democrats actually did really good. So my question is just, is the sign, the fact that Democrats are winning, but the polls are showing Biden actually in a weak spot, doesn't mean that Biden is a weak candidate, or it's just all these special results are misleading?
Yeah, so some people believe that Trump shouldn't even be close, right? You've got President Biden in an economy that's fairly good. I mean, inflation is high. It's high everywhere in the world, but it's an issue. And they wonder, why is Donald Trump, who's been criminally indicted and he's had so many legal problems, even close in this race? And part of it is the perception of the economy, and perception is the reality in politics. People are being hurt by inflation. We released a poll that showed that households earning under $50,000 a year, which normally Biden would win by 12 points, according to the 2020 exit polls, is now losing by 11 points. So low-income people is really a good place for Democrats, because low-income households are young people who are just starting out in their careers. Their first job may be earning less than $50,000, or older people who might be on Social Security or fixed income, and they don't, have a lot of money, but they're making enough money, but it's under 50,000. Those two pools of voters should be Democratic voters. The polling is showing that the economy is overriding those issues. As to the special elections that you asked me about, part of the reason Democrats are winning those special elections is, number one, they're fielding better candidates, more likable candidates with higher favorabilities. Number two, the turnout is significantly less than what the turnout in the presidential election is. So Democrats know where their base of votes is, and they can proceed to go out and get those votes and pull their votes out to the polls in a low turnout. And the third reason is abortion rights. Abortion rights has been a winning issue for Democrats in many special elections. There's one in Virginia coming up, because the pro-life side has gone too far. And people who would generally maybe vote Republican, like independent women, say, independent women made a difference in the 2022 midterm elections here, because they were upset that Roe versus Wade was overturned. And so they were going to make a statement about how upset they were that the Supreme Judicial Court overturned Roe versus Wade. They felt like that was a right that was taken away from women. And instead of voting plus 20 like independent women in 2022, they left independent men and they voted Democrat by 20 points in some of these states. And that's why there wasn't a red wave in 2022. So in these small special elections, abortion rights, low turnout, and better candidates, more popular candidates, are the reason that Democrats have strung together a great little streak of victories.
Can abortion rights be topic, like a huge topic next year as well?
It could be. It was in 2022 with independent women. It should be, because nothing's changed. States are making their own laws on abortion rights, but it may not be. You've got the war, inflation, an immigration problem, which is impactful in many different ways. And if those other emotional issues, bread and butter issues, in the case of the economy, if they take center stage, Biden needs to use the data that he has as president, not only from our poll, but from other polls, and figure out how he can turn that around. If you're Donald Trump, the polling is fine. You're basically polling even with President Biden. You haven't even done a debate. You haven't started campaigning. You've been spending your time, in courtrooms over the last 3 months, and you're still even with President Biden. So those are all dynamics that are in play, and and that's kind of the setting for next year's caucuses and primaries as we move into the November election.
Now we have Biden, incumbents. We have President Trump, but now we also have an independent candidate, which is Robert Kennedy Jr. So are the polls with Kennedy Jr. at 15% realistic? And in general, does he attract more Biden or Trump supporters?
This is where it gets complicated. The polling says that Trump benefits with Kennedy out of the race, not Biden. originally, if you looked at a lot of the articles, this is where narratives can be dangerous. If you looked at the articles that were written a couple of months ago, most people thought Kennedy would hurt Biden because he's a Democrat. I mean, he is a Democrat. His family are a family of Democrats, but now he's running as an independent. But it turns out that there are a lot of people who are independents would vote for RFK because they can't vote for Biden because they're not happy with him, but they also won't vote for Donald Trump because of his legal problems and his personality. So RFK is a nice place for them. If they were forced to vote, they'd vote for Trump if Kennedy wasn't an option. But with Kennedy being an option, they have a nice place to go. They don't have to vote for Trump and they don't have to vote for Biden. So the poll is telling us that instead of it being a 37-37 dead even race, Donald Trump would jump ahead if RFK was not on the ballot. So in that way, it's problematic. But you also have another independent candidate, Cornel West, who was originally going to run as a Green Party candidate, and he's getting 4% of the vote. Now he hurts Biden, not Trump. The Cornel West voters tend to break as a second choice to Biden over Trump. So you have two independents now in the fight. Kennedy's more popular than West. Kennedy is helping Biden, really, but West is hurting Biden. So there's kind of an offsetting factor.
We just started talking about the primaries and next year's election. Of course, there is still a long way to go and anything can happen. For the meantime, thank you very much, David Paleologos, for being with us. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.